The King of Pop has a new biopic, and it's not very good. When I say that though, I know some people are going to completely disagree with me. This is a movie I think people will generally enjoy since it knows that the music can really hold an audience's attention. It is definitely a crowd pleaser that knows what people want to see, but it really doesn't go anything beyond that, and that's a major problem. Just to get it out of the way, no, the movie does not address some of the biggest controversies Michael Jackson was involved in. Both because the movie ends in 1988, and they legally couldn't. However, this doesn't impact my opinion about the film, as there are plenty of biopics that leave certain things out that I enjoy. Ed Wood and his second wife were in an alcohol-induced abusive marriage, which isn't mentioned in the film. But the movie's very stylized and not a full accurate portrayal of real life. So it is possible to make a good biopic leaving things out. I'm going to review this movie as it is, not by what it leaves out. The word I would use to describe this movie is shallow. I don't feel like I learned anything new about Michael Jackson the individual. If I knew nothing about MJ going in, I'd leave thinking he was a very talented singer with a controlling dad. I couldn't tell you anything about his personality. At first, I thought that was the intention. He's a person that was railroaded his whole life, so he never developed a personality. So I thought we'd see him find his personality as the movie progressed. But it just kind of stagnates. He's only shown to be a saint with some daddy issues. There was really only two scenes that felt genuinely real. One was when his dad was beating him as a child, the first time at least. There's another where there's a song playing over and it's really awkward. The other is when Michael gets injured and his dad asks if he'll be able to perform. When confronted about the callousness of that response, his dad replies he's only truly alive on stage. Because of who was saying it, there are so many layers to that response and how you can interpret it. But that's really the only time something like that happens. It's a very safe movie. The film was heavily influenced by the Jackson estate, and you can tell by the executive producer credits. When you have the family or close friends of the film's subject heavily involved, it's usually a bad sign, because they will of course have an emotional attachment to the subject and want them portrayed in a good light. Which unfortunately makes this movie feel extremely sanitized. The brothers never fight with Michael, which definitely wasn't what really happened, so the compromise is they're barely in the movie. I couldn't tell you which one was which by the end. However, the performances are good overall. Jafar does a good job emulating the look and voice of his uncle. At some point I actually forgot I was watching a performance. Usually with a casting choice like this, it's just nepotism, which I'm sure it partly is, but his performance does justify him. The kid who played young Michael Jackson also did a really good job. Usually kid actors are terrible, but he does just as good a job as Jafar. The standout for me though was Coleman Domingo as Michael's dad. He really plays an abusive control freak extremely well. He's definitely a caricature, but an entertaining one. He's the only character in the movie I felt was complex and had layers.
Because the Jackson family is the brand. That's our Coca-Cola.
The rest of the actors do fine, but you're not going to remember any performances outside of those three. Except maybe Mike Myers, who shows up here in a similar role he played in Bohemian Rhapsody, which makes me believe these two movies take place in some strange cinematic universe. The editing in the movie is okay, but sometimes during the musical numbers, it would cut away to the crowd at very bizarre times. At the end, when Michael is singing Bad, they cut to a person fainting like 3 or 4 times. This is supposed to be the big end capper, and it's being interrupted by random people fainting and being dragged out. Which yes, I know in real life, people did faint at his concerts, but as an editing choice, this is really distracting. The CG in the movie is awful, which is not something I'd ever thought I'd have to say about a Michael Jackson biopic. The chimp looks just as bad as Garfield did 20 years ago. I'm surprised they didn't just get a real chimp since it's not really in the movie that much. And I know there's concern about animal abuse, which is fair, but then make the effect actually look good. There's also a scene where Michael's hair catches on fire and it looks like something out of a direct-to-video movie. At first, I thought it was because the movie spent its money on the concert scenes, but then I learned its budget was almost $200 million. That is more than Oppenheimer and Bohemian Rhapsody combined. And one of those movies had a bomb go off. It's a testament to Michael Jackson's music that when it was playing, I was really getting into it. to a point where I wondered why this wasn't just a music video compilation with some transitionary footage. If all you're looking for are good recreations, a few good performances, and the music, you'll get it. Just nothing more than that. For me, I don't really care about recreations of stuff I can look up on YouTube. Why would I watch a recreation of a thriller when I can just watch Thriller? Unless I'm learning something new, it's just self-indulgent, which just leaves a shallow biopic with nothing interesting. It did get me to go back and watch a couple of Michael Jackson's music videos, so in a sense the film accomplished its goal, but as a biopic, I need something more to keep my attention. I give it a 4 out of 10.